All right, welcome back. I'm gonna do a quick video on the T-1 Micro, just kind of an update on that to kind of finish off the build and give you guys some information. Maiden went well, no real issues, not much trimming at all. Not as fast as I thought it would be, but you know, after talking to another owner of one, he said that's about the speed that it's got. So, but yeah, maiden went off without a hook, nothing crazy. I still had some heating issues when I went to the event. So I ended up pulling the pipe, pushing it back further. That helped a little bit, but there's still some heating issues in the pipe. I noticed the pipe had collapsed around, the outer wall had collapsed around the inner pipe because it's paper thin, and I think that's causing some of the heat issues. But the issue with that is they tacked the pipe outer wall at both ends of the inner wall. So when the inner wall heats and expands, it causes, especially when it cools off, it shrinks and it causes that outer wall to collapse. So what they should have done is just tacked it at the front of the pipe like all the other manufacturers. So I'm going to probably just get another pipe. I want to try a smaller pipe. This pipe, the diameter is probably for more so like a 60 or 70 size motor. And I think that might help with the speed and airflow. But what I did was enough to fly the model for the event without hurting anything, wasn't bubbling any paint. So that's one little thing I gotta fix. And if you have a pipe, the stock pipe, it's a little short depending on where you have your motor. But I did push it back till I'm just maybe, you know, not even a quarter of an inch from the end of the fuselage. Because what happens when you get that, when you have it set to where I had originally, the heat comes out of the center pipe and kind of goes back forward. And that was what was heating up the rear end and causing it the paint to bubble. But once I figured that out, you know, no other issues. Flies great, tracks well, good roll, you know, it rolls, you know, on center axis really well, doesn't do any corkscrew or anything like that. I had to give it a little bit of up on takeoff, no aileron, no rudder, so that was all good. So flaps full down, it shot to the moon, which is normal, plus I was going a little fast, but so that, you know, required some down trim. So it does require down trim with the flaps in. The new T-1 landing gear controller I love. It's, you know, they took kind of the best of everything with the LGC15 and they kind of tweaked it a little bit. Super simple to fix. The only thing I had issues with that I didn't know, because I didn't read the instructions too well, I read them, but I just missed it, is it says to trim the nose wheel prior to hooking the gyro up, because it has gyro stabilized steering, which is cool. It's not an issue when you're on takeoff if you're out of trim anyways, because it compensates, but when you're trying to push it back to the, you know, when you're done flying, pushing it around, it, you know, if you're not trimmed, it wants to go. And so I was sitting there continually adjusting the trim and it wasn't fixing it, because it says, you know, in the manual, trim the motor before you put the gyro on. So that, once I figured that out, that was a no-brainer. And then the first little stump thing is when you select, it kind of goes through and tells you L1 through L5 in the instructions based on the braking, like how much braking you want. So L1 would be like on or off, no proportional. And then as you get up to high L5, it's for smaller models and less braking effect. Mine only had L3, so we because Dirk and Jeff were there with the Pacific. They just sent, you know, Mr. Kim a message, and he said, well, he removed them. He didn't think he would need anything past L3, which he's right. You know, this is probably the smallest model that's going to be in. And with it on L3 and stock settings, the braking was perfect. There's no flat spots. It doesn't go crazy, you know, fishtail or anything. The gyro works great. The steering works great. The landing gear works great. You know, I love how it automatically disables the nose wheel steering when it goes up, which is what you typically used to have to do in your radio anyways. So the new steering is great. The fuel tank that they have now, that I had a couple people you know, like, oh, that's cool. They got a new, you know, actual fuel tank. It's 1500 cc's. I flew 6-7 minutes starting out, and I was right at a half a tank. So I went up to 9 minutes, flew for 7, you know, had about 2 minutes left, and I'm still probably a quarter tank or more. So you can definitely fly a long time if you want. So what I did is I just started filling it up almost to the top, you know, just to kind of save weight, because I did CG mine at 173, close to 173, and it feels nose heavy. No problem. It takes a little bit longer to rotate, I think, because it's nose heavy. And inverted uses, you know, from half stick to up, full up, I'm using about 70 to 75% up to keep it level. So it's definitely, in my opinion, it's a little nose heavy at 173 millimeters. Because the fuel, even though I kind of put it as close as I could to CG, even with it full back, the fuel's still forward to the CG. So it got better as I got closer to landing because there's less fuel. Not a huge difference. It was fine at 173. You know, I mean, it flew other than requiring a good bit of up on inverted. And I did notice that if you're not too careful with that CG, that when you get slow, you'll run out of elevator. No issues though. I mean, it just you just run out of elevator at a point, so you gotta give it some goose. So I'm gonna move the CG probably back to the stock, I think, or whatever, because there was the manual said 165. The Pacific website had 173. So I think 170, between 175 and 173, anywhere through there, I think you'd be good. I'm gonna try 165 just to see how that works and everything. But you know, 173 worked fine. You know, being a little nose heavy or nose heavy. Other than the pipe and the main landing gear, the pins they use for the struts are steel, but they're very soft. Like, I didn't have any crazy hard landings, and one of them actually bent on me and it wouldn't let the gear go full up. And I took it out just a few minutes ago and straightened it on the table here. So it's not super hard still. It's probably not hardened, but you know, it was easy to fix. I'm actually gonna go flying here in a little bit. But yeah, it's a great little model. It'd be interesting to see if the pipe change will speed it up a little bit. I did cut some kind of flower leaf grooves around the forward two bulkheads just to allow for more air, because I think that was another thing. The two bulkheads that the motor mounts to, if you go tail mount, are right around the pipe, so there's no airflow there. So the only airflow you were kind of getting was between the outer and inner wall pipes of the pipes. And when it was crushed like that, even when it heated up, it didn't go back to full shape. It was restricting airflow over the inner wall, between the inner wall and outer wall. So I think I'm gonna get one of Paul Applebaum's pipes just to try, because it comes with a bell mouth. Nothing's wrong with the stock. I mean, it'll run it, it's fine, and plenty of people have. I just think their outer wall is a little too thin, and if they stop tacking it at the end, that'll fix the outer wall collapsing, because it's paper thin. I mean, it should be a little bit thicker outer wall. But other than that, I mean, it's a great model. Throws were right on per the manual. Elevator and aileron throws were great. Flaps as well. I'm actually probably going to give it a little bit more elevator. The 15 millimeters. Didn't seem like it was enough, but that could be because it was nose heavy. So we'll see. But it flies great. It doesn't seem to tip or anything when it gets slow, so that's also good. So as far as that goes, I'm happy. I want to give a shout out to Dirk and Jeff for their help. You know, just little quick things. I mean, it was nice to get responses on things immediately. So, and they helped get it here pretty quick. So props out to that. And just the overall construction. You know, I was talking to them at Kentucky Jets, and just, you go through and you look at you look in the wings and you see where the wood ribs are glued in, and there's just these tiny little beads of glue around everything where it just kind of squishes out a little bit, which is awesome. You know, nice, clean, glue joints, the layups are good. The paint was good, nothing crazy on the install, you know, and typical, you know, goes together good like my first T-1. So, so props on that. And we're getting about 10 minutes here. So I'm gonna flip this around. Well, you can't flip it around, can you, once it's started? So, but anyways, I'm gonna get out of my sweatbox here. I'm out in the shop. So, but anyways, great model for 45. You know, they say max 45. You could probably even put like a 60 in this and be perfect, you know. But you know, that's just my opinion on that. Especially if the new pipe doesn't change anything, because it's not a speed demon at all by any means. So my Harlock was quite a bit faster, but this is a little bit bigger model, probably a little heavier too. So, and it has small inlets, so the airflow through is probably another choke point. But it's a great model. I would recommend it. So you guys have a good one, and probably next video is going to be on the F-22. I found a little thing on that, easy to fix, but just something that I'll talk about in another video. But you guys have a good one, and thanks again to Dirk and Jeff and Mr. Kim. Great little model. You guys have a good one.